I want to say a big, huge thank you to Visit Stillwater, my presenting sponsor for all Big 12 Football Media Day content. Go to visitstillwater.org for all sorts of information about game day. If you've been to Stillwater for OSU games before, or if you haven't, there's all sorts of information there. Check it out. And remember, you can fly direct to Stillwater. So go to visitstillwater.org, my presenting sponsor for all Big 12 Football Media Day content. It is time for Big 12 Football Media Days. Wait, what? You thought football season was still a long ways away? Not true, my friends. Media Days are July 9th and 10th in Las Vegas, and it's the unofficial kickoff to the football season. There's no better time to talk about the newly expanded Big 12 and what we might expect from the conference. So Tulsa World columnist Berry Tramel and I will do just that right now on the Jenni Carlson Show. But before we get to that, I want to encourage you to subscribe. First to my YouTube channel, at Jenni-Carlson. Just hit that subscribe button. It's easy, it's free, but it helps me a bunch. And then I hope you'll subscribe to my Substack, jennicarlson.substack.com. You can subscribe for free, or if you want to support my work with a paid subscription, you can do that too. I hope you consider subscribing no matter what level. BT, how are you?
Jacko, we're going to Vegas, of all places, the bastion of Big 12 football, Las Vegas, Nevada. Who would have thought?
Yeah, it is a little bit weird. Vegas is the home of Big 12 Football Media Day now. You know, this is a first. Dallas has always been it for me, but are you excited about, regardless of location, you excited about Media Days coming around?
I'm very excited about Media Days. I don't know if I'm excited about Vegas. I'm not a world traveler, so I have actually never experienced Las Vegas. Been out of the airport once in my life in Las Vegas, and that was to rent a car and drive to Phoenix as quick as possible. So we're about to hit the Las Vegas Strip or downtown or wherever the heck you go in Vegas. I'm sure I'm going to go up there and hit all the casinos and clean them out of all their money and damage the Nevada economy. That's sort of the game plan. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see if I have a better week than some of the Big 12 personalities that'll be there.
Yeah, we'll talk about some of that in just a second. But let's start with a little news first because it relates to the Big 12. Something that will no doubt be talked about during Big 12 Football Media Days, and that's OSU running back Ollie Gordon being arrested early Sunday morning, June 30th. Among the complaints he faces is a DUI under the age of 21. So, Barry, what does this mean for Gordon, for Oklahoma State? We haven't heard much from Oklahoma State just yet as we sit here on Wednesday morning, but what's your best guess about how this impacts Ollie Gordon and potentially the Cowboys?
Well, I'm assuming Gordon is facing a suspension, probably a one-game suspension. My colleague at the World, Bill Haston, wrote about that for the Wednesday Tulsa World about Gundy's decision and the history of what he's done in these situations. And it's often been a one-game suspension for something similar. So that would seem to be the case. Cowboys open with a 1AA opponent, so no big deal, except that 1AA opponent is South Dakota State, which has won 2 straight national championships, has a 29-game winning streak, and knows how to strap on the shoulder pads. So all hands on deck. So that won't be a walkover in Stillwater that day. The Cowboys could use a player like Ollie Gordon, but that's the ramifications of things like this. So that's sort of my expectation. That's Bill's expectation, I think. That's probably everybody's expectation. And just have to wait and see. And another interesting thing is that Gundy might not tell us. Sometimes he doesn't tell us when it's going to happen, and we just have to wait till game day to find out.
Yeah, it's definitely likely that Ollie Gordon faces some punishment. I wouldn't be surprised, like you, if it was a game because of things that have happened in the past. I heard a national radio show the other day talking about his future, Ollie Gordon's future, being uncertain with Oklahoma State. Listen, they're not kicking him off the team. He's not going to be kicked off the OSU football team for this. Now, it could have been a serious issue. He was driving under the influence, open container, going over 80 miles an hour. I mean, this could have been a potentially dangerous situation for Ollie Gordon and potentially other people. We're grateful it wasn't. So that's top line. That has to get figured out. Can't have that sort of thing happening again. But sort of down the list of important things for football fans, I think probably becomes a little more top of the list is Ollie Gordon and the Heisman campaign that I suspect Oklahoma State was, maybe considering rolling out at Big 12 Media Day. Barry, is as a Heisman candidate done before the season starts if he faces something like this?
I don't think so. We saw Baker Mayfield win, in a year, and he was coming off a legal scrap running from the cops, literally, not in the car, not evading arrest, but just, was in a drinking situation and ran from the cops and ended up not getting away, and that was problematic. But Baker won the Heisman that year. So Johnny Rodgers won the Heisman 50-something years ago after an arrest for robbery. So this does not kill anybody's Heisman campaign. It also does not help.
Right.
And Ollie Gordon, as a tailback, had a non-blue blood, strike one, strike two. So, you got to the biggest problem for Ollie could be just the missing of that one game, because the way a tailback wins the Heisman these days is you're not playing for Alabama, is rush for about 2,000 yards. There's one game less that Ollie Gordon can get to that magic mark or in the neighborhood. So I don't think it kills. I don't think it extinguishes Ollie Gordon's Heisman hopes, but it certainly does imperil them in a variety of ways.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think missing a game hurts those totals. Although we saw last year, remember those first 3 games, he hardly had any yardage because they hardly used him in the non-conference. He still rushed for over 1,700 yards last year. So not to say that Ollie Gordon still couldn't put up big numbers, even if he misses a game. But yeah, it definitely doesn't help anything as he tries to become Oklahoma State's second Heisman Trophy winner behind Barry Sanders. All right, let's talk more broadly about the Big 12, Barry. Here recently, you wrote about the 4 new Big 12 schools for the Tulsa World. People can go to tulsaworld.com and see those pieces, each of them individually, looking basically at football at these schools. And it seems like to me, after reading those and sort of thinking about it, we've got 2 schools among the newbies, Utah and Arizona, that could absolutely contend for the conference title. And the other 2, Arizona State and Colorado, although our good friends in Vegas, who we're about to see face-to-face, seem to think more highly of Colorado. But it seems like Arizona, Colorado could very well finish at or near the bottom of the league. Am I off in either of those assessments, BT?
Well, no. I mean, people are higher on Colorado. Arizona State is down with Houston and Cincinnati as perhaps the bottom rung of the Big 12. The Sun Devils just can't seem to get the program going. Perhaps second-year coach Kenny Dillingham can invigorate them. A lot of optimism that Dillingham's the right guy in Tempe. But, I mean, Arizona State's it's not one of the magic names of college football, but it's a solid name in college football history. And you keep thinking, what's going on at Arizona State? Why can't they get going? Why can't Arizona State, in the old days, become a Pac-12 power? You would think Arizona State coming into a league like the Big 12, which is void of the blue bloods, there's no Oklahoma, Texas, USC, Oregon in these among these teams anymore. Why is Arizona State still near the bottom? But it looks like rebuilding is still the plan there. Colorado is a mystery. We didn't know what we were going to get last year. The lines were just so poor in Boulder, but the skill positions, the people with the ball, the people defending the ball, really solid. Shedeur Sanders is the preseason All-Big 12 quarterback. But does Colorado have the line depth to challenge? They are generally listed, I don't know, out of 6. I don't know where you put. I don't know what's the middle of the Big 12. I haven't done the math. What's the middle of the Big 12 in a 16-team league? I don't know. But below the middle, so basically double-digit area. So that's going to be interesting to see. Of course, it's going to be interesting to see what Deion has to say about it. You got a little taste of Deion last September when you went up there for the USC game. I've not been around Deion Sanders other than a few NFL games I covered, and he was out there running around dominating. So to me, he's going to be the star of the show in Vegas. Deion in Vegas. Who knew that would be a thing? So, Colorado's going to be interesting. But Arizona and Utah, very good teams last year. Look to be, I think Utah's picked first and Arizona a close fifth, I think, was it, right behind the Jayhawks. So, they're really going to be interesting to see what those teams look like and talk like, and we get them on sort of their home territory, right? I mean, it's not, hey, they're coming to the Big 12. Well, just kick off this coming to the Big 12 area. We're going to them. Vegas is, I can attest, 4 hours. Vegas is 4 hours from Phoenix. I know that part. And so it's about 5.5 from Tucson. Maybe there's a shortcut to cut it off a little. And it's not that far from Salt Lake City either. So Vegas is right in the wheelhouse of these new members of the Big 12.
Yeah. Hey, about those stories you wrote on the new members of this league, what was the most interesting thing you uncovered, whether in conversations with any of the folks from those schools or just in doing research? Anything that surprised you about these four? Because they aren't unknowns. It's not like, a year ago we get BYU, Houston, UCF, Cincinnati, which again aren't unknowns, but not as well known as another power conference, opponents. So did you learn anything about these four new ones this summer that might have surprised you?
A couple things that one of them which I knew but I'd forgotten. Actually, I guess they're both things I knew but really hadn't focused on and was reminded of, and both involve futility, and both involve Colorado and Arizona State. I don't know that we appreciate how bad Colorado football had fallen in recent years. Not just the losses, not just the irrelevancy, but just, the Colorado football team of 2022, the year before Deion, was just an awful team. They won one game, and they had one loss that was less than 14 points. They were dominated by almost everybody. And that's what Deion inherited. I know we get on Deion and his methods a lot, but I'm not saying he handled it right. I'm not saying the mass transfer and cutting kids just en masse. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying something needed to be done at Colorado, because that was a ship that was capsizing quickly. Yeah. But Arizona State also, just its perpetual mediocrity. Arizona State's had, it's been in two major bowls since the 70s, since entering the Pac-12. I mean, that's 46 years in the Pac-12, and they made a major bowl twice. They made the Rose, 86 Sun Devils, 96 Sun Devils. And we think of Arizona State as a solid name, So those things are really interesting me. Most of us know Utah, just unbelievable consistency under Kyle Whittingham. And most of us know the Arizona story because I played the Sooners in the Alamo Bowl last year, so we got a lot of up-close look at Arizona. But those are the two things. Can Colorado continue its rise under Deion, and can somebody do something with Arizona State?
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned Deion in Las Vegas earlier. Obviously, I think a lot of people excited to talk to and hear from the Colorado coach at Big 12 Media Days. But are there other folks that you're really looking forward to talking to again, or getting to hear from as we head to Vegas for Big 12 Media Days?
Oh, yeah. I always want to see Kalani Sitake, BYU coach, one of my favorite people I've met in college football, particularly among the head coaches. Just a wonderful guy. BYU seems to be sort of in that below middle part, sort of Colorado, only without personnel, without the Sanders family is sort of what BYU is. But I love Sitake. I always like talking with Kalani. I'm anxious to see what, the Texas corner of the Big 12 has sort of been forgotten. We don't talk about Tech. We're not talking about TCU. We're not talking about Baylor and Houston. The Texas schools were the foundation of the Big 12 for many years. And then particularly here in the last few years, TCU and Baylor have won titles in the last decade. And Tech has the wild history, of course, and then the Longhorns were here. So Texas just seems a forgotten part of this whole thing. When you look at the favorites, you're looking at Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State,
Mm-hmm.
and Arizona, and Kansas. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a case of wait. I thought this Big 12 headquarters were in Dallas. I thought this was a Texas-based conference. So Sonny Dykes clearly is a big-time coach, and Joey McGuire's doing some great things at Tech. Dave Aranda's in trouble at Baylor, it looks like, and then Willie Fritz is the new coach at Houston. Did a great job at Tulane. I want to see what's going on in the state of Texas, because that's been very odd. How the new Big 12 seems to be petitioning off the state of Texas.
Yeah, it's very strange, very strange. Yeah, I have to admit, I'm interested in all the folks you mentioned, but Brett Yormark, always always intriguing. And being in Vegas, I don't know, just feels like there could be news announced, whether it's about Vegas or other things coming down the pipe for the Big 12. So don't be surprised if Brett Yormark makes news in Vegas about the Big 12. So I'm curious to see what he has to say during media days. What about players, Barry? Anybody that you saw on the list? I mean, maybe aside from Ollie Gordon after his situation, he is on the docket to be there to represent Oklahoma State. Assume that will still happen, but what about players? Anybody you're interested to see there, hear from, those sorts of things?
Couple I'll throw at you. Dante Corleone, the great defensive tackle at Cincinnati. One of the great company mans, I think, in college football, because in this age of transfer portal and early entry to the NFL, it's hard for a school like Cincinnati to keep a player like that, and yet they have. He's clearly a loyal guy, but he had a big injury, so I'm anxious to see his status and talk to the Cincinnati people. Love my dealings with the Bearcats, pull for the Bearcats, but they got me worried because I don't know that the depth is that strong, the talent level is that strong in Scott Satterfield's second season as head coach. So worried about Cincinnati and hope Corleone is good. The other one is that Cameron Rising is supposed to be in Vegas, and of course he's the Utah quarterback who got to Salt Lake City in 1954. And, so he's like
Alan Harry Ellis plan, Barry.
Literally, we got two seventh-year guys. The people have been playing college football longer than you've been covering it, Jacko. So that's crazy. Cameron Rising committed to OU way back. I hope I don't say this wrong, but I think he committed to OU in the spring when Bob Stoops was still the head coach at OU. And so then he switched his commitment to Texas, went to Texas for a year, transferred to Utah, become an icon at Utah with a couple of Pac-12 titles, a couple of major injuries. One thing leads to another, and he's in his seventh year with the Utes. So he's an interesting guy and a wonderful quarterback. And so Cameron Rising should be a pretty popular guy in Vegas.
Yeah, it's interesting the number of quarterbacks we're going to see there. I mean, you already mentioned Shedeur Sanders, Rising, Jalen Daniels, who's also coming back at Kansas after injury last year. He was the preseason player of the year in the league, preseason offensive player of the year in the league last year before he gets hurt. So it'll be interesting to talk to him. Then Noah Fafita from Arizona, who I think is really interesting, Barry. I mean, here's a guy that in this era of transfer portal and his coach leaves, when Jed Fish leaves, I think the expectation is he's on the docket. He's in the portal. He stays at Arizona, going to be huge to their chances to win this league. So lots of interesting quarterbacks in my mind that I'm looking forward to hearing from in Vegas for sure. Okay, last one about Big 12 Media Day, Barry. Question you're most wanting to ask and get answered during Big 12 football media days.
That's a good one. What you're referring to is something I really appreciate, because I used to write a column before Big 12 Media Days, and questions I want answered in Big 12 Media Days, and sometimes I found myself, I got on this list, I got questions that not only won't be answered, but can be answered, like, is Texas Tech for real? We don't find out if Texas Tech is for real in July, so why is that on the list? So questions that really they can be answered. And I think it goes back to our friend Deion. What is Deion Sanders like? We've seen footage, we've seen videos. He's got his own video company follows him around, but is it possible to see Deion Sanders in a setting where the spotlight is not on him? And for most guys at Big 12 Media Days or any other media days, it's somewhat possible to at least check it out. You'll see. I remember the year Matt Rule was hired. Matt Rule was just standing off to the side, waiting to go on. He had about a 15-minute break. And I went up and introduced myself to Matt Rule. And like most people who meet Matt Rule, I was blown away by his charisma, by his personality. What you see on the sidelines, what you see in interviews, that's Matt Rule off to the side also. So can we get a slice of Deion Sanders when the spotlight's not on him? The answer is probably no. I think he walks around with his own spotlight, literal spotlight. I think that he's got a lights guy who walks around with, lighting him up. So, but if it's possible to see him in the shadows or in the without everyone watching him, what's he like? And I'd be really interested. And the other thing is, what is Kyle Whittingham like? This is a guy that's like Mike Gundy, about to enter his 20th season, rock solid, model of consistency, build a wonderful program, doesn't get a ton of national love. So I'm anxious to see what some of these guys are like. I know what Sonny Dykes is like off to the side. I know what Matt Campbell is like off to the side. I know what Chris Kleiman is like off to the side. I don't know what Kyle Whittingham is like, what Deion potentially is like. So those are the kinds of things that I enjoy about Big 12 Media Days.
Yeah, should be fun, should be interesting, and you're right. I think Deion in Vegas. This is a tailor-made first Big 12 Media Day for Colorado. Deion and the Buffaloes. So before I let you get out of here, Barry, tell people what you got coming up in the Tulsa World.
Got a series. I'm not sure anybody heard the news, but OU has entered the SEC. They're now in the Southeastern Conference. Don't worry, that was not some sort of early fireworks show the other night in Norman. It was a drone show as part of the celebration. But anyway, we've got a series beginning this weekend. I think we're starting it Saturday on various sports and how they'll fare in the SEC. I'll be writing about men's basketball and softball. So how will Patty Gasso and Porter Moser fare in their new league, and Mason Young's got baseball and women's gymnastics and whatever else. So I think people will enjoy that. How will the Sooners fare in the SEC?
By the way, Patty Gasso saying she got no welcome to the SEC text from her fellow head coaches in softball in the new league. So no surprise there as the 4-time defending national champs get ready to head to the SEC. People can check that out at TulsaWorld.com or in the Tulsa World itself. All right, that's all the time we have for now. But again, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and my Substack. It's easy and it's free, but if you want to support my work financially, I would appreciate that too. You can do that via my Substack, JenniCarlson.substack.com. Also, you can find this episode and all episodes of The Jenni Carlson Show on your favorite podcast app. If you like what you hear, please leave us a review. And a quick word of thanks to my video dream team, Jacqueline Musgrove and Michael Lane. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.